And I thought to myself, wait a minute, there's got to be a national resource. If you get killed in the line of duty, you have a great organization, Concerns of Police Survivors. They'll be there with your family the rest of your life. But there was nothing for injured or disabled cops. Well, there sure as hell is now, and we are the Wounded Blue, and we are the National Assistance and Support Organization for injured and disabled law enforcement officers, whether those injuries are physical or emotional and psychological, because you guys know as well as I do, PTS can be as real as a bullet, and often is.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Magazine. On today's episode, John Gray and Jack Schonely are honored to welcome one of the most influential voices in American law enforcement, retired Lieutenant Randy Sutton of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. With a law enforcement career spanning more than 34 years, Randy's impact has extended far beyond the streets of Princeton, New Jersey and Las Vegas, Nevada. He became a familiar face to many through his appearances on the TV show Cops, which opened the door for some acting roles in both television and film, including a part in the iconic movie Casino. Randy is also a prolific author, having written A Cop's Life, True Blue, The Power of Legacy, and his most recent book, Rescuing 911, The Fight for America's Safety. A respected and in-demand public speaker, he represented the law enforcement community at the Republican National Convention last year. Perhaps Randy's most enduring contribution is as the founder and chairman of the board of the Wounded Blue, a 501c3 organization dedicated to supporting injured and disabled law enforcement officers through support, education, assistance, and legislative advocacy. This is a powerful and inspiring conversation you won't want to miss. Thank you to our sponsors, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, BLR Aerospace, and Robinson Helicopter.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Magazine. I'm your host, Jack Schonely. Joining me today for this episode is John Gray, the creator of the Hangar Z Podcast. John, how are you?
Good, Commander. How you doing, sir?
Good. Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
It's been a busy week.
It definitely has.
But this is exciting. We've thought about the invitation to our guest today for quite a while, and it finally happened, and then it happened quickly. So we're thrilled today to have someone that, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to recognize this gentleman. 34 years in law enforcement. He's an author. He's an actor. He is on the news regularly on breaking news as a subject matter expert. He's a keynote speaker. He's been on Cops multiple times. He's also the founder of a 501c3 that supports law enforcement that we're going to talk about at length. He was a Republican National Convention speaker this year at the RNC, and he's a tireless advocate for law enforcement. And the person I'm talking about is retired lieutenant from Las Vegas Metro, Randy Sutton. Randy, welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast.
It is a pleasure to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
this is exciting. We're glad to have you. You're a very well-known figure in American law enforcement, have been for quite a while. And seems to me you're busier in retirement than you were working. And I understand that. I think sometimes I am too, but for really good reasons. You are truly one of our voices. One of those voices that speaks for law enforcement almost daily in some way. And you fight for all of us. So thanks for that, Randy. I know you do it tirelessly, and I know you do a lot of it. Thanks for doing that.
It's an honor for me to do. You know, the law enforcement profession is often misunderstood, maligned. And part of that is because our voices simply aren't heard. So any opportunity I get to put our voice out there, you can bet your butt I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And you do. I mean, you are out there a lot. And every time I see you and hear you talk about something, I go, that's me talking. Randy is speaking for me. He's telling the truth. He's telling the reality. He's telling the backstory that people don't hear on the news that leads up to the event that the news focuses on. And that's so, we all know that's so important in our profession. There's so much more to it than just a video.
So I got to tell you, since we're on this topic, one of the greatest feelings that I get is interaction from cops from around the country who write to me and tell me and message me, Randy, thank you for being our voice. When I did the speech at the RNC, which we'll get into that story, I still can't believe that I was invited to do that. It was one of the most magical moments of my life. But I got hundreds of messages from cops around the country, most of whom I do not know, after doing that speech, saying, Randy, I felt like you were talking to us.
Yes.
And that to me is precious. That's the most important thing I could possibly do.
Yeah. It's the nicest compliment you can give. That someone is on a national stage and you feel like that person is talking to you and about you and what you would say. There's nothing better than that, because we all want to say those things, but we don't have the platform. The media is not interested. Generally, the media is not interested in that. And there you were. I mean, with the chant, "Back the Blue," the chanting was going on, and I could tell how excited you were. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's on YouTube if you want to go watch it, folks, because it's really cool. It's a cool moment, and you could see the pride and the emotion that you had on that, Randy. So I'm not surprised that you said that. That's really cool. So we're going to go back in time a little bit to start and lead back up to where we are. And it starts as a New Jersey story. Let's talk about, where you grew up and how you ended up being a cop so quickly in life. You ended up being a cop much faster than most. And that's a fascinating story. Tell us that story, Randy.
Well, I consider myself really lucky, you guys, because I knew what I wanted to be from the time I was a child. And some of that was related to, I grew up in a small town, Princeton, New Jersey, where the university is. And I had the idyllic Beaver Cleaver upbringing. I had two parents that I grew up in a loving family. My grandfather was a deputy sheriff who was shot in the line of duty, survived it, but wound up he was shot by a poacher of all things. Oh. And I remember being a young kid, he would show me his stomach where he got hit with a shotgun blast. And it was fascinating that he survived that. And both of my parents were court reporters. So I got to listen to, at the dinner table, cases about murder and crime. And it was always fascinating. But I always knew from the time I was a child that I was a protector. And my entire life, from the time I was, protecting, kids I was in school with from the schoolyard bully, that was what, you're hardwired sometimes, right?
Yep.
I was hardwired as a protector. And it's something that I never lost, that I continue to this day. When you have your self-vision, right? What is it that you stand for? Who are you as a human being? And I always knew that protecting people was going to be my life. So here's the story about how I became a cop. It's actually kind of funny. It's not one that I tell very often, but I'll tell it here since we have time to do it. I became a cop because I got thrown out of school for fighting. Like I said, I was a protector, and the school that I was in, Princeton High School, was a very, very liberal school, right? And there were the school bullies that were, every school has them, and
Sure.
I was a protector. So when somebody was getting picked on by a bully, I would insert myself, and as a result, got in a lot of fights. And so I was constantly getting thrown out of school. And my parents actually supported me because they knew that I wasn't picking any fights. I was trying to help. And it's in the weird way that the world works. I was in my junior year and I was about to be thrown out of school again. And I'm in the principal's office. And even though he was throwing me out of school again, the principal actually liked me. And I could tell that he actually supported what I was doing, but his hands were tied because I was fighting.
Right.
So on this particular occasion, a very good friend of mine who was like one of the quietest kids you'd ever imagine, but big kid. And he was in the lunchroom. I was off campus where I shouldn't have been to begin with. And he was set upon by a bunch of bullies. A couple of them were gang members. And they beat his ass. I mean, put him in the hospital. That bad. And when I got back to school, the school was abuzz with, this poor kid that got his ass kicked. And the kids who did it knew that he was my friend and I was going to come searching for him. So they proactively sought me out, and 5 of them cornered me in a hall, a stairwell, and the fight was on. And no matter how good you are, when there's 5 of them, you're going to get your ass kicked. So the teachers come in, they break it up, and they drag me down to the principal's office. Not the guys who jumped me. Who do you think they decided to throw out of school?
Oh, jeez. So
I'm in the principal's office again for, I don't know, 4th or 5th time that year so far. and while we're waiting for my mother to come pick me up again, the principal gets a phone call. And from the phone call of his end, I know that he's on the phone with the chief of police from my small town, Princeton. You only have 30 cops, right? But once a year, they would choose a cadet from the junior class to be a cadet, which an intern, whatever you want to call it, gopher, right?
Uh-huh.
But they would bring one junior to be the police cadet for that year. And I can tell from the conversation that he's having that that this is the call for, hey, we're looking for a new cadet. And I'm like this. And the principal gets this smile on his face and says to the captain or the chief, whoever he was talking to, said, you know what? I think I have the perfect cadet for you. And that's how my police career got started as a 17-year-old kid getting thrown out of high school for fighting for the right. And that's why the principal knew that I was a protector and knew that.
Yeah.
And so he vouched for me and I got hired as the cadet.
That's great. That is so great.
And it had a profound effect on my life.
Yeah.
For a couple of different reasons. One is, basically, I made the coffee. I went out and I helped the desk officer dispatch cars. It was basically, hey, here's everything that we do in the police world here. You're our gopher.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I had a little uniform, a little special police uniform. And I had a ball, and I made relationships. I had friendships that last to this very, very day.
I'll bet.
And this was we're talking 1975, guys.
Yep.
That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
So, as a 17-year-old, I knew this is going to be my life. Now, getting thrown out of school, I got thrown out so many times that basically they said, look, you have to take a double course load because you have to graduate early because you're not going to last throughout the rest of the year. So my senior year, I took a double course load and graduated 6 months early.
Wow.
So I turned 18 and had my high school, had my high school diploma. Well, they had just changed the age of majority from 21 to 18. So you could drink, you could vote, you could become a cop. And so I started taking police tests at 18. And I took the police test in Princeton. Now, they only hired about one cop every 4 years, right?
Right.
Because, it's such a small department. So I didn't expect for them to hire me. And they didn't. They hired somebody else. But they made me number 2 on the list. I think they did that as a way of saying, we really believe in you, but you're just too young to be a cop.
Yeah. And they kept the carrot out there for you.
And then fate took a very difficult turn. So one of the guys that I was very friendly with, who was a permanent desk officer, was a guy named Johnny. And Johnny was this gruff old Navy vet, all tatted up. Oh, he's very gruff. But literally, he and I had a very good friendship, right? Here I am, this kid, working with him all the time because I was working the desk a lot, and I was his assistant. And, he was trying to be the mean, tough guy, but he literally had the heart of gold. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yes.
So,
Thanks to our sponsor, AEM. See why the P122 and P132 are the preferred console upgrades for the AS350 H125 Special Mission Aircraft. AEM's avionics consoles are a lightweight yet rugged cockpit upgrade for airborne law enforcement and utility operators. Visit aem-corp.com/avionics consoles.
I graduated from high school and kept my relationship there. I wasn't working there full-time anymore or part-time, but they would call me in whenever they needed me. So here I am. I'm working as a security guard. I'm going to college. I'm taking police tests. I'm 19 years old, and there was a hurricane that hit the town. And so I knew they were going to need help, so I went up to help, and I'm working the desk. And the 3 to 11 shift was about to come on, and Johnny was the desk officer. Johnny didn't live in Princeton. He lived a couple towns away, and he didn't show up. And that was, that's really unusual. Yeah. And we tried calling him, and the phone lines were down. And then we just figured that, trees had gotten away and he couldn't get in. So I'm working. It's crazy. It's a hurricane. There's all kinds of emergency calls, and it's bedlam, as you might well imagine. Well, I get a break. I got to go to the bathroom. I go down to the locker room, and who's laying on the floor?
Oh,
Johnny. He'd made it into work and had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who found him. And I yelled, I said, Johnny's hurt. Cops came down. We called the ambulance. I was a member of the rescue squad, so I had EMT training. And I performed CPR on him with him. Another cop joined me, and I couldn't bring him back. And Johnny died on the floor of the locker room. And it was devastating. Devastating. We hadn't lost a cop in recent memory. And so the ambulance comes, they take him away, and, it's just the saddest thing you could ever imagine, right? We're all gathered, and the work is still going on, but we're devastated. Yeah. And Sergeant comes up to me, takes me aside, and he said, hell of a way to become a cop.
Wow.
And I took his spot.
Wow. That is an amazing story. What a way to start a long career, and starting with something that traumatic. I'm so sorry that happened to you. All these years later, look at the emotion it brings. I understand that completely. That's powerful. That is a powerful story.
Well, you know what? I felt that I owed him.
Yeah.
I owed him my career, and I never forgot how I became a cop.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to honor his memory.
Well, you certainly have.
Yeah.
That story is in my book, A Cop's Life,
Yeah.
called Johnny's Last Day.
Yeah.
I wrote that story many, many years later, and that's in my book, A Cop's Life.
Incredible. That story, I'm sure, as emotional as it is, it has helped you, especially in what you're doing now. It certainly probably came up through your career as well, thinking about that and that pain and the suddenness and the friendship and all that. But now, which we're going to get to later with the Wounded Blue, I mean, you truly understand that in a different perspective now, I would think, since you've learned so much over the years and with the Wounded Blue about that kind of trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was, we never know what our pathway is going to be. We never know what's going to be put in our world that will create who we are.
Yeah.
And that's been my story my entire career. I never planned most of what I did. It was set before me and the pathway was shown to me.
Yeah. Wow.
It makes for a very philosophical career. And
oh yeah.
And, one of the things that is very misunderstood about law enforcement is how cerebral the police job truly is. We're considered blue collar, not really.
No.
There is so much to the police job that requires wisdom, honor, integrity, compassion. Well, how do you develop those things? I was 19 years old. I got to tell you, I was too young to be a cop.
Right.
I was too young to be a cop.
Sure.
I thought I had all the answers. I look back now on some of the decisions I made as a 19-year-old policeman, and I go, oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
But I was really fortunate. I had some amazing mentors. And I'll tell you one of the stories about that really created a pathway for me. So when I was a cadet, I got to know everybody on the department. And there was one guy who was a detective when I was a cadet. And he was the sharpest guy probably that was on the department. He was a larger than life guy. He was very understated, extremely competent, great detective. And, I was 17 when I started, right? So, a lot of them treated me like a kid. Yeah. I was a kid, but a lot of them treated me like the gopher, right? Hey kid, go get me some coffee, right? That kind of shit, right?
Yep.
He wasn't that guy. He actually began mentoring me, even though I wasn't even a cop yet, and showed me many things about being a police officer. Well, when I got to be a cop, he got promoted to sergeant. And I wound up working for him as a very young police officer. Now, I got to tell you, I was very black and white in those days. So everybody went to jail. Everybody got a ticket. You remember those guys, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I literally made more arrests than the rest of the department together. A lot of them were chicken shit arrests. If you had half a joint, you were going to jail. Right? And I wrote so many tickets. I was the most unpopular guy. I was writing my buddies' tickets. I was writing their parents' tickets. I was writing my parents' friends' tickets. I was really, really black and white, but I was a working son of a gun, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
one day after shift, we were working graveyards, and the sergeant, his name was Tommy. Tommy says to me, "Hey, Randy, let's go to breakfast." And I said, "Okay." And we go to this New Jersey diner, and I'm recounting my night's events. Oh, yeah, I wrote this guy a ticket. Yeah, he was an asshole, right? It's like that. And he's listening, and he's nodding, and he's giving me little words of encouragement, and I'm telling him. And then he said to me something, and this stayed with me the rest of my life. He said, "Randy, you're really a good cop." And I'm going, "Yeah, I am." Oh. And he said, he said, "Randy, you got a great knowledge of law enforcement. You're constantly trying to learn. You're a working son of a gun. You know search and seizure. You know the procedures. You're really a good cop." And I'm like, my chest is all pumped up, And he says, "But do you know the difference between being a good cop and being a great cop?" And I didn't expect that question.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know how to answer it. I said, "No." And he got this smile on his face. This is one of those moments that you never forget in life. Got this little smile on his face. He says, "The difference between being a good cop and being a great cop is one word: compassion."
Wow.
And it was
Accurate.
it was like somebody hit the light switch for me.
Yeah.
He didn't pound it into me. He didn't lecture me. With that one little statement, he changed my entire perspective about being a police officer.
Wow. One word from the right person, your
That's
mentor,
right.
somebody you respected and who was treating you with respect.
Yeah.
Wow. Did it change overnight?
It changed immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. I became a different cop that day. And that lesson not only carried me through my career in Princeton, which was 10 years.
Yeah.
But throughout my entire career as a cop and as a police leader.
Yeah.
Because I utilize that as a guidepost for the rest of my police career, including the way I became a leader.
And it's a valuable lesson. It's true. And you got to see firsthand, wow, he was right. I'm sure in hindsight, even though you changed that day, I'm sure as time went on, you would look back and go, wow, I really am different. I mean, where you really realized it yourself that this is quite different. This is better than the guy I was before.
Yeah.
Especially when you're policing in your hometown. That alone is and in a smaller town, that alone is a big challenge.
Yeah.
Big challenge.
Yeah,
I don't know how people do it. I mean, I've got friends. I grew up across just west of you in Pennsylvania in Kutztown, a town of 5,000, 10,000 when college was in, and very small department. And I knew every one of those cops growing up. Not because I was in trouble, because I kind of thought I wanted to do that someday. And I knew the chief because his son was friends with, so I had that same, I know what you went through there. And I often thought, could I be a cop in Kutztown? And how tough that would be. And it would really be tough if we were like you started out. It would be much easier to be a cop after you changed. Do you agree with that? That it was easier and more
Absolutely.
enjoyable after your change? Jeez.
And
wow.
When I look back in retrospect, and I gauge my career, as I grew and matured, and that 10 years that I spent in New Jersey, I was halfway to retirement.
Yeah.
And I was a patrol cop for 6 years. We were called patrolmen, right? You remember that?
Yep.
Patrolman on your badge.
Yep.
And then I was a detective for 4 years. So I had a great job working as a detective, topped my pay scale, but I got bored to death, you guys.
Yeah.
I was bored to death in a small town. And and decided I needed more action.
And so how, and I understand that too, because I went from Kutztown to Los Angeles. You went from Princeton to Vegas. Was Vegas your first choice, or were you looking other places? Tell us about that transition when you said, I need more action. Where were you searching for it? And how did you end up having Las Vegas Metro Police Department on your radar?
Thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com.
Another great story.
Good.
So I decided I was going to, and back in those days, there weren't any computers, but there were magazines. And so there were recruitment ads for departments, right?
In police product news? Was that the magazine?
There were different magazines that existed in those days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not going to mention the name of the department, but there was a large Florida police department that was hiring. And I said, I'm going to go down there and test. So I went down to this large agency, and they had the test tailored for out of town, as many do, right? So you get there, you take the written test. If you pass it, take the physical agility test the same day. The next day, you go for your interview. And it was bing, 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 bing. And they knew that I had tested high enough that they were going to hire me if they didn't find anything weird in the background, right? So the recruiter said, hey, do you want to do a couple ride-alongs and see how we work here? And I said, well, hell yeah. So they teamed me with a guy who had been a New Jersey cop, thinking we were going to do the New Jersey mind meld. You know what I mean? Hey,
uh-huh.
Yeah. So the guy picks me up in my hotel, and we go off on patrol graveyard shift. And we're not on the road an hour when we get involved in a hellacious pursuit. Now, this isn't the day, you guys will remember, when the pursuit policy was chase him till you get him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Till the wheels fall off, right?
We're the secondary unit, and we're chasing this motorcycle. And we're doing 100 miles an hour. And we're going through an industrial complex, and I'm going, yeah, baby, this is what I'm looking for. Adrenaline's pumping, the siren's going. I'm going, hell yeah. And while we're involved in this pursuit, the motorcyclist took a curve, and his skill level was not what he thought it was. And he went off-road and hit the side of a warehouse at about 85 miles an hour.
Oof.
And he was literally the bike disintegrated. He was a red spot on the wall.
Yeah.
His body fell down. And it looked like somebody had taken bushels of money and thrown it up in the air because he was a drug courier in Florida in the 80s.
Yeah.
And his bike was loaded with money. And so when he impacted, money literally rained down from the heavens.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, holy shit, man. Yeah, baby. This is Miami Vice. And I can't wait to see how the big boys handle this, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, we weren't on that scene for more than 2 minutes. And my partner says, okay, let's go. I said, what do you mean? He says, yeah, the primary can handle this. Come on, let's go. And I said, well, aren't detectives coming? I mean, this guy's dead. No, there's an investigation. I just wanted to see. He couldn't wait to get me away from that scene.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, I am a detective.
Uh-huh.
Why doesn't he want me to stay there? Why are we leaving this scene?
Yeah,
and that was my first indication that what I call the ethical environment of that agency was not going to be consistent with my own.
Correct.
Now, of course, I'll never know for sure.
Yeah.
But if I was a betting man, I'd venture to say that all that money that came raining down from the heaven maybe didn't make it into the impound.
Yeah. Wow. And you got to see it right there, right in front of you, and then they're sweeping you away.
Right.
And the writing was on the wall.
And I'm going, and I'm a cop in Princeton where if you took a cup of coffee for 25 cents and didn't pay for it, they'd fire you.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yep.
So anyway, I stayed riding with them for a couple more shifts, and everything I saw just created in my mind the answer that I'm not taking this job. Right?
Yes.
And I said, thank you very much. And the next day I got on that flight back to New Jersey, back to my little tiny police department.
Yeah.
And I was telling that story at a Delaware Valley Detectives Association. In Princeton, there's 15 different municipalities in the county, right? So detectives would get together once a month, talk about cases, because literally the street, there was one street was the dividing line.
Yep.
So the crooks are capering everywhere. And the only way to figure it out was to talk. So I was telling that story with all these detectives, right? And after the meeting, these two FBI agents come up to me. And they said, Randy, if you're looking for a really good agency, LVMPD, Las Vegas Metro, is hiring, and they're a straight-up agency, and they're a great department, and there's amazing growth there. You don't always hear such great, glowing things.
No.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
So I came out to Vegas. I tested, same kind of thing, and the rest was history.
Incredible. Just two FBI guys, and just out of the blue, tell you about Vegas. You go there, and like you said, what a career!
Yeah.
The next 24 years in Vegas at Vegas Metro. That's incredible.
I never looked back, even though it was a tough decision. Because I was halfway to retirement.
Yep.
And all my contemporaries were going, Randy, are you out of your mind?
Sure.
And I'll tell you one of the toughest things. Tommy, that guy who gave me those words, had now become a police leader. He was a lieutenant, and he was going to be the next police chief.
Yeah.
Right? This is 10 years later.
Yep.
And he took me aside. We went to breakfast, and he said, Randy, I guarantee you if you stay here, you will one day be the chief of police because I will make it happen. I'm next in line to be the chief. And I said, I'm not leaving because of that. I'm leaving because I'm not being fulfilled with what I know I can be. And to this day, we talk about that. He's still one of my closest friends.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. That's just amazing. What an amazing chain of events to lead you to Las Vegas Metro.
Had you been to Vegas before the words came out of that agent's mouth?
No, I'd never been to Vegas in my life. I didn't know a soul here. And I had to start my career all over again. I had to go through the academy again.
Oh, sure.
I had to be a rookie again.
Yep.
And it was, I got to tell you, it was lonely. I didn't know a person. It was challenging because it's a very tough academy, and there was no going back.
So now you're thrown into the big city. I mean, you grew up in a small town, or you were a cop in that small town, and now you're in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is what year? About 86.
86.
Where Vegas is booming. I mean, it's booming. It's growing by the day, right? At that
5,000 people a month were moving into the city.
Oh,
jeez.
5,000 a month.
5,000 a month. It was the fastest growing city in the country at that time.
Right. Yeah. And it held that for quite a while.
Long time.
And so what is it today? The population in
So
Vegas?
when I moved here, it was 500,000 people lived here.
Yep.
2.5 million now.
2.5 million.
Wow. Jeez.
When you moved there, how big was the department?
It was the ninth largest department in the country then.
Okay.
There was about 1,000 cops.
Yep. That's what I was going to guess, around 1,000. And now it is
3,000.
Wow.
tripled in size. That's a lot of growth within a career. That's a lot of growth. So you saw almost all of that growth.
I did.
And you're still seeing it because you still live there and you're still part of the law enforcement community. Wow.
I know you'll get into it, but one of the things interesting to me about Vegas, as far as law enforcement
Well, but
goes,
I got to tell you, I never look back on this decision. I mean, it had its trials and tribulations, especially going through the academy again. You're creating new friendships. I'm really glad I went through the academy again. You know, when I went to the New Jersey State Police Academy, I was so young. I was 19. And I had to have my mother buy my bullets for me because you had to be 21.
Oh, geez.
And now I go through the academy. I'm 30 years old. I'm one of the old guys in the academy. And
Right.
It was, but I got to tell you, from the minute I hit the street in Las Vegas, I knew I was home.
Yeah.
Wow. I did my research too before I took the job. I literally questioned people about their views on Metro, and there was a huge amount of respect for the cops here.
Yeah.
But they always said one thing: you don't screw with them because they will kick your ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they had the reputation of being tough, but not being brutal.
Right. Wow. That's a big switch that I certainly can relate to, from small town to Los Angeles. Pretty cool feeling. I mean, you said it was lonely. You mentioned that, it was kind of, wow, you're now in this, you went from knowing everyone to knowing no one. But at the same time, did you have this feeling of it, kind of adventure and the feeling of that was really a unique feeling of excitement?
100%. 100%.
Yes.
Every day going to work, through my entire career, I loved being a cop here.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you, this was not always easy. I had some very, very difficult times here. I ran afoul of the politics on the department because every department has its politics.
Sure.
And the difference with Las Vegas Metro is it was a combined city-county police department.
Very unique.
At that time, that was very unusual.
Yeah.
So Las Vegas City PD combined with the Clark County Sheriffs in 1972 to form the Metropolitan Police. So the sheriff was the boss, is the boss. And that's a whole different ballgame because you have an elected sheriff.
Right.
So I through my own fault and my own stubbornness, I ran afoul of one of the sheriffs, and he made my life miserable.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a whole different set of stories, but
yeah,
I survived it, but I had some tough years.
Oh yeah. I understand that. It is a unique thing. The Metro there, I can think of a couple places, that have done that.
Yeah.
And it works, but it is a sheriff department in as far as the leadership, and that's political, and things can get dicey and change, and different sheriff comes in and everything changes,
Yeah.
overnight.
Yep. Absolutely.
It good and bad. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the worse.
Yeah.
You did 24 years there, and during that time, what different positions did you work? Were there some unit assignments that you can tell us about, and you obviously promoted, you ended up a lieutenant, but tell us about what you worked there.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
I did patrol, of course. And then I became a field training officer. And field training officers, I tell you, I spent almost my entire career in some aspect or not of training. I loved training. And FTOs, to me, are the unsung heroes of police agencies. They're literally the backbone, man. Without them, there's no legacy. You know, they literally form police. They make cops. And I really enjoyed that role. And it prepared me for leadership down the road.
Yeah.
And I had some incredible experiences being an FTO. Did that for about 3-4 years. Then became a narcotics detective. And during my first year, or 1989, so I was a cop in 86, 1989, the TV show Cops came to be.
Yep.
And I was one of the most featured officers on the show.
Yep.
That created pathways for me. Double-edged sword. Double-edged sword. It opened doors for me in ways that still continue to this day.
Yeah.
It also created a massive amount of, believe it or not, issues of jealousy.
Oh, I had that word popping into my head as you were saying it. I thought, it's going to be jealousy. Wow.
I literally
understand.
In fact, the sheriff despised me because I got more media attention than he did.
Yeah.
And they actually didn't air a bunch of TV shows that they got because, and I got this from the producer, because the sheriff had to approve every show.
Yeah.
And at one point he says, quote, "Can I curse on this?"
Say what you got to say.
Let it rip.
He says, "This isn't the fucking Randy Sutton show."
Yeah. Yeah.
He wouldn't let him air a bunch of episodes that they got with me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it opened other doors, like, for instance, getting the role in the movie Casino.
Yeah.
One day I'm on patrol. I get a call from a casting agent. Hey, there's going to be a film shot in Vegas, and the director is looking for realism in the part of a police officer. Would you come down and do an audition? And I'm always up for a new adventure.
Yeah.
And I walk into this suite at the Riviera Hotel, which doesn't even exist anymore. And who's standing there but Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese?
Yeah.
And it was for a role in the movie Casino. So usually, I came to find this out, they give you lines to read. You read them with the director, and that's how they make the decision on who to hire for the part. Before I could even do that, I started telling them stories about being a Vegas cop. They looked at each other, and they said, "Fuck it, you got the part."
Yeah. Yeah. They knew they had the real deal.
And that's how I got a role in a Oscar-winning movie and started my film and TV career.
Yeah.
And got in the Screen Actors Guild from that.
Yeah. Gets a SAG card.
Yeah.
With Scorsese and De Niro
Wow.
giving you the blessing. That's a pretty cool start, Randy. I mean,
It was a pretty cool start.
You hear some of the struggles of people getting into TV and movies, and you just say, I just told them a couple cop stories and they gave me the green light. That's great. And for those of you listening, go to YouTube, punch in Randy Sutton Casino, and you can see the scene. And many of you know exactly what scene it is. It's the family dispute on the front yard with the white Mercedes crashing into the Cadillac, and Randy and his partner come to save the day. And I watched it last night, Randy. Watched that scene.
That young officer that was with me actually worked for me. I brought him onto the set.
I was going to ask you because it looked natural. It looked natural.
So he got bit by the acting bug so bad from that that he left Metro, went to a Ventura PD so he could go to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And did some small roles, but wound up retiring from Ventura PD.
No kidding. Wow. It's a great scene. I mean, it's funny. It's very real, by the way, as far as the screaming and the yelling and the nonsense. And then you have two cops come up hey, everybody settle down.
So,
it was
by the
very
way,
real.
I ad-libbed that entire scene. That was not the scene.
I'm not surprised. It was something you had done many times.
Scorsese liked it so much. He says, "Let them go. Just let them do their thing."
Yeah,
and that's how that's how the scene happened. And by the way, that officer's father was the LAPD pilot who was severely burned in an airplane crash.
Yes,
Helicopter
crash. Yes, that's your partner from that scene. Oh my gosh, interesting.
Small world, huh?
It is. Oh, that scene's funny. And the other funny thing is, now that you've told your Florida story, it's kind of funny that you end up in the bank with Sharon Stone handing you a bunch of cash. No, I can't take that. Okay. You probably thought about that when that was happening, or did you insert that?
I did. That was ad-libbed too. That whole scene was ad-libbed as well.
Oh, that's great. That is great. I have one other casino question. Did you get to meet Don Rickles?
I did.
Yes.
One of the funniest sumbitches I ever met.
Yep. Oh, he's hilarious.
This was so I actually, that little scene that you saw, those two little scenes, I was on the set for 3 weeks filming those.
Wow.
I was there a long time.
Yeah.
So Rickles, my part wasn't with him. What was so funny, his mission in life was to distract Robert De Niro and make him laugh and screw the scene up.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
He did that constantly. It was hilarious to watch.
Oh my gosh.
But here's my favorite memory. A couple of years ago was the 25th anniversary of the film.
Yeah.
And a magazine contacted me and said, "We're doing a 25th year anniversary. Do you have a specific memory?" And I said, "Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact." And he said, "Okay, what was your memory?" I said, "Well, my scene was not with Joe Pesci. But one day I'm walking by Joe Pesci's dressing room. And Joe Pesci is about this big.
Yep.
And he's standing out front. And he's got his ratty old bathrobe on and pink bunny slippers. And he's smoking a cigar about this big. And I mean, it was a funny sight. So I started laughing. I said, "Nice slippers, dude." He goes, "Oh, fuck you." I said, "I got a New Jersey fuck you from Joe Pesci." It was the best memory I had. And they printed it.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. That's great. That is great. I also watched some of the Cops episodes. The one, I'm sure you remember him, but the one was the 7-Eleven man with a gun call. And I'm sure occasionally you probably look back at that stuff. Do you look back at that one particular? I mean, you find the guy, you're there by yourself, you circle the 7-Eleven, see, he's GOA, you say it on the radio, and then all of a sudden you look up and go, whoa, that's the dude in the car right there. And then you get this guy in custody with the gun, everything goes smoothly. But do you look back on those and go and critique yourself see?
So here, so I have seen that one. I have seen that one because that one's played a lot.
Yes.
I never watched any of the shows.
Yeah. I
never watched any of my episodes.
Yep.
I've seen bits and pieces of them because sometimes I'll utilize them for, an intro when I'm doing a speaking gig or something.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, especially that one, I didn't think I figured the guy was gone. And then as I'm walking by him, there he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think I wish I had trademarked, "Let me see your hands, mister."
Yeah.
Because I think I was the first one in national media to do that.
Yeah. It was a good, I must say, Randy, watching it, it was a good observation. You were on the driver's side, walking up the driver's side of the car. He's the passenger. You didn't have a real clean look on him, but you had a good description on the radio. Remember that? The brown jacket, male white, brown jacket, blah, 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 where the gun was, inside that jacket. And man, as soon as you came up, it was like you looked through the driver and saw him, and boom, you were on him.
It was pretty dramatic. It was pretty dramatic.
It was. You had him come.
There was one other episode that was even more dramatic. And that was when I came upon a whole bunch of gang members. Everybody was armed.
Oh.
And I literally, me and my 12 gauge took them down.
Yeah.
And that was really, really dramatic.
I'll have to look for that one.
Most of them were really dramatic. They mostly showed some of the funny stuff where
sure.
There was some sadness because, all they do is they throw a film crew in your car with you.
Right.
And they get whatever you see.
That's right.
And so that's why I'm a huge believer in the TV show Cops. I still maintain a very strong relationship with them. They actually support the Wounded Blue in a big way.
Good.
In fact, I'm going to let you guys know something. I haven't told anybody.
No.
But this is about to happen. The TV show Cops. So it was originally started by John Langley and Malcolm Barber. They both passed away. John's son is the one that is the owner, and he's a huge supporter of the Wounded Blue. They've been donors. They're involved with me because they know the work that we do. Well, I'm about to make a big announcement about a special relationship with them. And I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but I'm going to tease you that in the next couple months, you're going to be seeing something really, really big between the TV show Cops and the Wounded Blue.
Good.
Awesome.
That's great to hear. Two important things coming together for law enforcement. That can't hurt.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is armor. Visit contest.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the buzzword.
That show has saved lives. That show has saved, I'll tell you, from being on that show, I was exposed, and cops from all over the country started reaching out to me. And many of them, only because I was a familiar face to them, when they were troubled, they reached out to me. Wow. And that is a huge piece of why the Wounded Blue actually came to be.
Interesting.
I realized the power of simply being recognizable in the law enforcement community.
Right. John, did they ever come out to Ontario? Did cops ever come out there to you guys?
No, they were in Fontana and Pomona all the time.
Yeah. Pomona, I remember a lot. And and Fontana, that's right.
Yeah, I don't remember them being in Ontario. Not that I know of. Yeah. Doesn't mean they weren't there, but yeah, Fontana and Pomona were very busy with them.
I remember Pomona was on quite a bit. Yeah, there were certain departments that they really, really loved. And Vegas Metro was one of them. King County in Washington, I remember, was on a lot. Pomona, a lot. Very interesting. But my favorite part of that show was that the average citizen could watch and see what happens before the call, what happens after the call, what suspects really do. The average citizen thinks, bad guys don't pound their head against when they're handcuffed. Right, they don't pound their head against glass window. That must have been a cop that did that. No, cop. And we all know that happens all the time. Yeah. Well, cops, man, there's countless episodes with a bad guy handcuffed in a car smashing a window with his head, Yeah. That was a valuable thing for the public to see.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
It did. Plus, it was the best recruiting tool for Metro ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's something interesting. There was a bunch of cops that over the years joined Metro, and I actually had them come up to me and say, we joined Metro because of you.
Yep. I don't doubt that for a bit.
They wound up working for me.
That's pretty cool too. Yeah. It was a great recruiting thing. So while you were there, that you became, I mean, this isn't you saying it. This is others saying it. You became one of the most decorated officers in Las Vegas PD Metro history. And I looked up, I tried to find all of them. There's several life-saving awards. There's all sorts of commendations, but you also have a Medal of Valor in there. And there's not a Metropolitan department in this country that just hands those out like candy. I mean, you got to do something to get a Medal of Valor for the most part. There are exceptions to every rule. But tell us about your Medal of Valor.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers. Thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com. Thanks to our sponsor, AEM. See why the P122 and P132 are the preferred console upgrades for the AS350 H125 Special Mission Aircraft. AEM's avionics consoles are a lightweight yet rugged cockpit upgrade for airborne law enforcement and utility operators. Visit aem-corp.com/avionics consoles.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hangar Z Podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing Randy Sutton's incredible journey through his law enforcement career and beyond. Randy is truly a law enforcement icon, someone who has taken his life experiences and transformed them into meaningful support of others. His organization, the Wounded Blue, is making a powerful impact every day, providing vital assistance to our brothers and sisters in law enforcement across the nation. To donate, get involved as a peer advocate, or access support and resources, visit thewoundedblue.org. That's thewoundedblue.org. Always remember, you are never alone. Be sure to also check out the upcoming 5th Annual National Law Enforcement Survival Summit happening in September on the 22nd through the 25th in Las Vegas, Nevada. A heartfelt thank you to Randy Sutton for all he continues to do for the law enforcement community. The Wounded Blue is not just changing lives, it's saving them. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the Hangar Z Podcast. We're grateful for the continued support from all of our loyal listeners and our incredible sponsors. We've got more great conversations coming your way. So until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Hangar Z Podcast.